Hello and welcome to Bophelong. My name, of course, is Refil Wemwilwa, and week after week, we profile ordinary South Africans with dreams and goals. They do their all to make it come true despite the challenges life throws at them. Share your thoughts on this and other Bophelong shows that you can view on the SABC News YouTube channel. Our Twitter handle is @Bophelong Show and our email address is bophelong@sabc.co.za. Today we start off with the story of Janine Juries, a brave woman whose strength has been tested many a time, a story that she related to producer Nombuso Mahlangu.
It got worse and worse. I got deeper into drugs. Mandrakes went to rocks, went to tuk, and I came to a point where my children were safer with my parents than with me.
To a child, mother is a magic word in any language, said Aline Benedict. The Bophelong team better learns how two mothers reunite with their children, despite their daunting past. Bophelong met up with Janine Juries, an ex-convict, mother of two, and now recovering addict. Janine fell in love and got married in her early teens. In her late teens, Janine made some really bad choices, and here's how it all transpired.
Just after I matriculated, I fell pregnant. And coming from a strong Catholic home, there was no choice but to get married. So at 19, I got married and I had my first child. And before that, my husband and I, we started experimenting with drugs. We tried marijuana, and it then led to mandrakes, which is a Cape Town drug, basically. And we fought a lot. We argued a lot because we were so young. With a new child, we were always at each other's throats, and we lived a wrong life. Drugs was part of our marriage.
Married, having to head a household and using drugs, Janine found herself in deep anguish.
At 21, I found myself pregnant with my second child. And because divorce is a no-go in our family, even after all the abuse, I just stuck it out. Until one day my son got hurt in a fight my husband and I were having. And that was the end of it. I thought, I can't let my children go through this. And I went for an interdict. I had him put out.
Shortly after putting out her husband, he passed away.
The guilt of putting him out, even after the years of abuse, the guilt of putting him out and just not being there for him. I felt as if it's through me that he died. I felt that I'd been robbed of my life. My children had been robbed of their father. And I turned to drugs again, just to comfort me, to give me that false strength and pride to go on.
Janine felt as though nobody understood her pain.
Things just got worse and worse. I got deeper into drugs. Mandrakes went to rocks, went to tuk. And I came to a point where my children were safer with my parents than with me. Because of my lifestyle and because of drugs, I started committing crime.
She saw it as her only way to survive.
I started swiping credit cards, writing out fraudulent checks. And eventually I was caught by the police and I ended up in Paulsmoor female prison. That was 7 years ago. I was sentenced to 3 years.
While in prison, her tunnel of light started opening up.
We did a lot of self-help courses. We did a program called Restorative Justice, and that was really a program that changed my life, because it's there where I learned that, you know what, you've messed up, but God is able. God is able to change your future. And I got saved in prison and I changed my life. And I survived it. I survived prison. I survived the heartache of my family while being there. I survived the fights, everything.
Although she had changed her life in prison, her close friends and family were still not convinced.
Coming out saved was very difficult, because when you've been to prison, people still look at you as a criminal. even though you've done your time. They still, my sister and them still used to hide their things away when they saw me coming. Because they'd think, oh my gosh, here she comes, our money's gonna go missing, this is gonna go missing. Or if I came home late, they'd say, look at your eyes, you've been drugging again, which wasn't even true at the time.
Eventually, Janine fell back to her old ways, but this time she got saved by her son.
One day I was walking down the street and it was storming, and my son drove past me without stopping to pick me up. And that broke me. It killed me, because then I realized how disgusted, how embarrassed, how much my children have learned to hate me because of what I'd done. But I actually abandoned them, and I didn't care what they were feeling about the things that people were saying about their mother.
Realizing how much damage she had made, Janine reached out for help.
I contacted a woman I met in prison. She was living up here in Johannesburg, and I sent her SMS. We hadn't spoken like for 2 years. And I sent her SMS and I said, please, can I just come down to you? I need a break before I end up doing wrong things and going back. And she sent me an SMS, and all she said was, when? And I said, yesterday. 2 days later, my bus ticket came through.
After coming to Johannesburg, Janine saw all her prayers being answered.
The one thing that worked for me really was that I used to pray, you know what, Lord, take me out of the situation. Take me away from all my friends, all my family. Take me away from where everybody knows who I am, where I know everybody, where I know every merchant that I can just walk to and say, give me something so long. Take me out of this situation. And I used to envision walking down a road with these beautiful trees and stuff. I have never been out of Cape Town. When I came into Johannesburg, I was walking down the street with beautiful trees. God had provided a home for me where I didn't have to worry about rent. I didn't have to worry about food. I didn't have to worry about clothing or a job. Everything was like just lined up for me, as if it was waiting for me to make that first step.
And your prayers indeed were answered. Stay tuned. After the break, we'll meet Janine's daughter. Her name is Nava.
It is important for everyone to know food safety practices and make sure that their food is prepared safely from farm to the plate.
Who ensures that there's compliance?
In terms of all the abattoirs, they have to be registered. So when they are being registered, they are actually audited fully to make sure that the structural requirements as well as the hygiene requirements are met.
Most bacteria and viruses cannot withstand the normal cooking temperatures that we use to cook our food.
The bigger retailers cannot be seen as being insensitive to the food safety requirements.
There are many consumers that actually go shopping with a cooler box and ice packs so that they don't break the cold chain, because a few hours outside the temperature that it should be already shortens the shelf life of that product.
Join me on Health Talk every Saturday morning between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. as we unpack current health stories.
COMPASS, an acronym for Community Provision and Social Services, does more than just house destitute women and children.
I was given my first meal. My kids, they ate like...
We need to start seeing opportunities to create something great for South Africa.
Now a senior consultant at COMPASS, Hafiza has managed to get an apartment for herself and her 2 children.
I am a conqueror. I am a victor over cancer, over poverty, over being without.
Join me, Refiwe Mwilwa, on Bophelong, your show about those who take on and conquer life's challenges, every Saturday at 17:30. Welcome back to Bophelong. Let's first take a look at a clip from a restorative justice program Janine and her daughter went through while she was still in prison, before Nava tells us about the trials they faced as children of an imprisoned mother who was also a drug addict.
Here's how Janine reconciled with her daughter through the restorative justice program.
My name is Nava, and I just want to let all the mothers know that here it's very hard for your children to see that you're here. It's not nice to come and visit, and me and my brother doesn't like to come, and it's very hard for me to see that he doesn't want to come to see my mommy. And I just want my mommy to know that I love her and I forgive her for all what she did to me. And I also felt guilty for some things, because I felt almost like, what did I do wrong for her to do this to me and my brother? And my daddy that also passed away at a young age. I never had anybody. I couldn't talk to my mom because for me, she was too old for me to talk to, and the only person I could talk to was my mommy. And I just wish that she can just come home, because I still need her to talk to and stuff.
After Janine's children saw a true change in their mother, they were inspired to come support her in her new life.
And then last year, in September, my son and his wife phoned me to say, you know what, we want to come live with you. This same son that wanted nothing to do with me. And they came with their baby. And then a month later, my daughter phoned and said, you know what, we want to come live with you. So I had to move out of the center and get a flat, and we were 7 people living in a 2-bedroom flat. And I've had all my children and my grandchildren with me, and that was like an amazing event for me, because here's my kids wanting to be with me for the first time in ages.
Nava is Janine's oldest daughter, and she shared with us about her struggles.
For me, it was very, very tough growing up with my mommy being all over the place. Like me and my brother, we were very young when my father passed away. He doesn't remember my father at all. I still have small glimpses of memories, like small things when he used to take us to the beach or to the park, things like that I recall. I also recall sometimes my father being very abusive towards my mother, like at my age, like I was about 4.
Seeing her mother resorting to drugs, Nava knew she would have to facilitate her brother alone.
Sometimes when I would wake up in the evenings and we would be alone, just me and my brother, I never ever told anyone about it. I always just kept it to myself. I had to grow up myself literally at a young age, seeing to my brother when my mommy wasn't there. And then things got a bit too hectic for her. She ended up in prison. We stayed by my grandparents. They basically reared me and my brother.
After her mother was sentenced, Nava was there for her.
The hardest part for me was going to prison every Saturday with my grandmother. We would take a taxi, wake up early on a Saturday morning, having to buy her things like papaya and a cool drink, something for her to eat, and just sit there and talk. The very first time I went was very traumatizing for me, as I had to speak to her through a glass window. My brother hated going. He hardly went. He would probably go once a month.
Despite all her mother's bad choices, Navar strived to be better.
All the negative things for me, it made me a better person. Like, I wanted to strive to become better than that. It never made me want to try and see what drugs is all about or things like that. It just made me see that, you know what, you need to make a change in your life. Yes, you're going through a lot, but only you can better your life. So at school I worked very, very hard. I had a bachelor pass. My brother also worked very hard at school. He also matriculated. We both matriculated. Yeah, because we just wanted to show everyone also that it doesn't matter what you go through in life, you can make a difference.
Proving to her family that we are all accountable for our own choices, Navar is happy to see her mom's progress.
She's changed a lot. Like, at first we couldn't really have a conversation with her because, you know, you can't have a conversation with someone that's a drug addict. They don't hear. They shut you out of their lives because it's almost like they just want to be on their own. So moving to Johannesburg, she moved here 2 years ago. We only moved here recently, me and my brother. We decided to come here to see what life is all about and to also just show her that, yes, we also want to show that we can also be there for her, that she does have family.
We are so happy that this family could be reunited. All the best to the Juries. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we meet another woman with a story similar to Janine's.
In Africa, mobile devices are tools to make payments, browse the internet, and keep governments in check with social media forums.
It's given an average African too much power in their hands.
And tech creativity is solving some of the continent's problems.
Everything is internet-driven.
And on Network, we tell you how Africans are using technology and social media in their everyday lives.
Join Siphumelele Zondi on Network every Sunday at 19:30 CAT.
Welcome to AM News here on SABC News Channel 404.
The people who also should be concerned are the people who voted for people of that ilk.
South Africa is indeed a unique country. And South Africa has a democracy that is very exceptional.
If people want to change the rules, do it properly, do it within the context of the Rules Committee within Parliament. And when you shout, it doesn't mean people are listening to you.
But there is a point of authority that must always prevail.
The ANC is very determined. We will not allow South Africa's Parliament to be dragged down into the mud, and we will defend the Constitution and Parliament.
I think our country is really being torn to pieces. And I think that the struggle for liberation didn't take place for people to play the fool like this in our country.
That's AM News, daily at 10 a.m. on SABC News.
Street culture is most definitely defined through one's individual style, be it through music, lifestyle, and fashion. Live Magazine has been in existence since 2010. It is a youth-run media channel covering a range of topics from fashion, politics.
We need, and there's a huge gap in South Africa, skilled museum personnel, such as collections manager, restorers. That is a gap.
Pattern of contact includes the 14th century Chinese world map. This is one of the oldest surviving world maps, titled Da Ming Hun Yi Tu.
Join Musam Khalifi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
Hello and welcome to the last segment of the show. Denise Davier, who hails from Boksburg, knows only too well the turmoil to her loved ones, but also to herself, that drug addiction causes. Let's hear how she managed to crawl out of the quicksand of addiction.
Denise Davier is a mother of 5. After a divorce, life began throwing multiple challenges at her.
I was married for 5 years. In that marriage, I had 2 kids. And then we went through a separation. And while we were separated, my eldest daughter, Shannon, she was actually hit by a taxi driver off the pavement, so she suffered a brain injury since she was 6 at the time.
Denise was employed at the time, but had a lot on her shoulders.
I still worked in Standard Bank, but it was a bit heavy at the time, going to work and still going into like different surgeries because of the brain injury and stuff. She had to have like a spine op, and there was a lung that were all affected, so it was quite a strain on me, and then eventually I resigned from the bank.
After finalizing her divorce, Denise found a new partner.
2 years later, I met my second relationship. I had 2 kids from him.
Having a new partner, Denise thought her life would change for the better.
From there, I think my life just took a whole different turn. I was introduced to different things. Introduced to somebody that knew about drugs, introduced to the drug world, and taken from ecstasies and stuff like that.
With the pension money from her previous job, Denise invested it in a car to visit her children.
I thought buying a car would help us to go and visit at times and stuff like that. It did work in the beginning, and then things started getting a bit hectic. The money was getting finished, and bank accounts were starting to clear up. And then I had a car, and bit by bit she was pawning the car off, from the sound to the tires to the mags, and then eventually the whole car.
Duped by the chaotic world she was introduced to, Denise found herself deep into the drug world.
We were introduced to the credit card fraud thing, and we stayed near Hillbrow, so that time it was, the thing that a lot of people did. Just take a credit card and use other people's cards. And yeah, being arrested in certain places, and at least going through those cases and not being imprisoned or jailed at that time, going through that for like 2 years. And then something happened in the 3rd year. My son was born, he was already 2, and then the baby was 4 months, the 4th baby girl. And he had gone into a shop in Rosebank and thing for nappies. He swiped for nappies, and obviously they knew him there. So I was with him, and when they asked him for an ID, I knew there was trouble. So I stepped forward with the baby and thinking that they would have some sympathy. And I told him to go and fetch his ID. So he went, and I thought he would come back, but he never did. So they arrested me.
After her arrest, Denise's partner, who was a drug addict, showed no sympathy when he was supposed to bail her out.
My mom and him heard about it. Then obviously I had appeared, and they gave me bail of 1,000 rand, which my parents and my family had organized for him to come and pay for me. But he didn't do that. Instead, he came back. He left the kids with my mom, and he came back, and she expected him to come back, and he used the money for drugs. That's what I heard at a later stage. So then on my second appearance, and I didn't see him there, all alone, your family, they're not used to this type of thing, coming to court for all of this. And it was just new. They were even shocked that I was arrested in the first place. They didn't know what I was for, but eventually, because I gave the money, we had to tell them. And in the second appearance, I just said, I just pleaded guilty. I thought, let me just get this over and done with, not expecting a 3-year sentence, because it was my first offense for 400 rand fraud.
While in prison, Denise traded all her bad habits for good ones.
Being in there, all I just said to myself was, this is not a death sentence. I can continue, I can get out of here. It's not that long, it's not like 20, 50 years down the line. I can do this, I get out, behave myself, worked in the kitchen at Sun City Prison. And, I really just comes with behaving yourself. And if you're that type of person, you will stay with who you are. You won't change whether you're surrounding, you're you're surrounded with hooligans or whatever the case may be, or murderers or whatever, different people. You don't become them. Eventually I went on parole, moved back home to my mom. It was a bit heavy for us because I think there was still a bit of unforgiveness as well for what I'd done, and my mom being old had to look after a 4-month-old baby.
Inspired by her mother and children to be better, Denise was sure not to disappoint herself.
It's just getting out, rebuilding my relationship with my children. That's all I wanted to do, is to start over again in life. I remember the one night when Sarah, my baby, she used to just sleep with my mom. She didn't sleep with me at all. It was still like about a year down the line, and eventually, just a bit below a year, and she decided, no, she's going to sleep with her mommy. The mother was so excited because but at night time she just knew that she had to go and sleep with Granny. Even if there wasn't anybody next to me, she would sleep with my mom, and then she just said, no, I'm going to sleep with my mommy tonight. She just said, no, I'm sleeping with my mommy tonight, and she came to sleep with me. And from there, I just thought, well, you know what, I'm doing something good.
Denise is now a happy single mother of 5, employed and clean from drugs. Her children adore her as she can now be a better mother and care for their needs.
All the best, Denise, to you and your family. Of course, life can get messy, and by virtue of being humans, we are fallible. But the triumph is in picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and striving every single day to be the best person you can be. My name is Refill Wemwilwa. Until next week, it's a goodbye.